Trump's tariffs on Canada were supposed to make America great again. Instead, they're tearing apart one of the world's most successful trade partnerships. While Trump celebrates billions in tariff revenue pouring into U.S. coffers, he's conveniently ignoring a crucial detail. American companies are the ones actually paying these taxes, and those costs are about to hit consumers hard.
Yeah, well, Wolf, these are historic tariff levels not seen in nearly a century. We have not seen tariffs at these rates since the 1930s, and following that was the Great Depression. And all countries are being hit. The minimum is 10%, but then it's ratcheted up to 50% for some countries. This is President Trump's big bet. He believes that he's going to shrink trade deficits with other countries and believes that he's going to move manufacturing to the United States. Here are some of the countries that are impacted. Look at that high rate for Brazil. Switzerland, 39%. That's actually higher than the initial tariff of 31% that was announced on Liberation Day. You have India, 25%. Trump has threatened to move that up to 50%. Vietnam, Cambodia, other East Asian countries at 20%, 19%. And the European Union, a major trading partner, Wolf, sitting at 15%. They actually negotiated that tariff level as Trump was trying to bring that even higher. But a significant historic day as nearly all countries now hit with historic tariff levels.
Vanessa, how much is this going to cost average Americans?
Yeah, well, this is going to hit a lot of products that we Americans love to buy. Computers, electronics coming in from countries like China, Vietnam, Malaysia being hit with 30, 20, 19% tariffs. Clothing and shoes coming in from China, Vietnam, India going to be hit with 30, 20%, 25 tariffs. Watches now on the list because of Americans' love for Swiss watches. That's going to be tariffed at 39%. Alcohol coming in from the European Union, countries like France.
The economic fallout from Trump's mood-contingent trade war is already reshaping North America in ways he never anticipated. And Canada's new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, just proved that sometimes the best response to a bully is to stand your ground. To understand how we got here, we need to go back to Trump's return to the White House and his obsession with tariffs as economic policy. Despite decades of economic evidence showing that tariffs hurt the countries that impose them more than their targets, Trump has made them the centerpiece of his trade strategy. His latest round of tariffs, which took effect on August 7th, represents one of the most aggressive trade actions in modern American history. The numbers are staggering. Trump has imposed tariffs ranging from 10% to 50% on goods from more than 60 countries and the European Union. But no country has been hit harder than Canada. Despite having only 11% of the U.S. population, Canada was America's single largest importer of U.S. goods and second largest foreign investor. That relationship is now in ruins. Trump's tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum reach up to 50%, while pharmaceuticals and autos face 35% tariffs, depending on where components are manufactured. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet, they're economic weapons that have already triggered layoffs at General Motors Canada, a subsidiary of American GM, and will soon drive up prices on $3 billion worth of Canadian pharmaceuticals consumed in the U.S. each year.
Well, first of all, I start off every interview with saying how much we love Americans, how much we love the U.S. And as I've said on this show many times, that a tariff on Canada is a tax on the American people. And as you've seen, the study from Yale, it's going to cost Americans $2,400. Manufacturing employment in the U.S., there's over 37,000 people since April have lost their jobs. It's the lowest rate in 5 years. And it's just not working. Let's create the AMCAN fortress, two strongest countries in the world. Again, this is hurting the American people as the rest of the countries, including Canada, is diversifying our trade. We're seeing a 25% increase in trade with the European Union. The UK is up by 30%. So as we're diversifying and onshoring products, the American people are losing their jobs.
What would the impact be for Canada and for the U.S. if President Trump pulled out of that agreement?
Well, it would be unfortunate. We directly employ, just Ontario alone, 9 million Americans, and across the entire country of Canada is probably closer to 20 million Americans rely on Canada for jobs, and vice versa. We rely on jobs with trade with the U.S. But it's just hurting both countries. And as we're diversifying and the rest of the world's diversifying, onshoring products that are typically made.
But here's where Trump's strategy starts to unravel. The vast majority of economists and CEOs reject his market mayhem, predicting disastrous consequences for the U.S. economy. In April, dozens of top economists, including 2 Nobel laureates, signed a letter warning that his tariffs have no basis in economic reality and could cause a self-inflicted recession. Outside the MAGA echo chamber, the consensus is clear. Trump's tariff policy is economically illiterate. The data is already backing up these warnings. After Trump's initial tariff rollout in April, economic reports show that hiring began to stall. Inflationary pressures crept upward, and home values in key markets started to decline. Construction spending has dropped 2.9% over the past year, and the factory jobs Trump promised have resulted in job losses instead.
He's probably the most disliked politician in the world in Canada because he's attacked his closest family member, and that's the way we look upon it. And when I talk to the governors and senators and Congress people, even Republicans totally disagree, but they're too scared to come out and say anything because the president will go after them, outside of a few senators. And I want to thank them for coming out and standing with not just American people, but their closest friends and allies, which is Canada. And again, we love the Americans. It's unfortunate President Trump decided to go down this road.
The International Monetary Fund and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development have both downgraded their predictions for global economic growth as a direct result of Trump's trade war. Economists John Sylvia and Brad Jensen argue that the tariffs will slow the economy, resulting simultaneously in fewer jobs and lower real wages through a slow, steady process of economic erosion. But the real shock to Trump's system came from an unexpected source: Canada's political transformation. Enter Mark Carney, the former central banker who became Canada's Prime Minister in March 2025 after Justin Trudeau's resignation. Unlike Trudeau, who often tried to manage Trump through diplomacy and compromise, Carney has taken a fundamentally different approach, one that's proving devastatingly effective. Carney's background couldn't be more different from typical politicians. He's a Harvard-educated economist who served as governor of the Bank of Canada during the 2008 financial crisis, then became the first non-British citizen to run the Bank of England since its founding in 1694. He navigated Brexit, managed global financial crises, and earned recognition as one of Time magazine's 25 most influential leaders. This isn't someone who gets rattled by Trump's Twitter tantrums. When Carney won the Liberal Party leadership with nearly 86% of the vote, his victory speech made his strategy crystal clear. Donald Trump has put unjustified tariffs on what we build, on what we sell, on how we make a living, he declared. He's attacking Canadian families, workers, and businesses, and we cannot let him succeed, and we won't. Then came the line that electrified Canadian audiences. We didn't ask for this fight, but Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves. So the Americans, they should make no mistake. In trade, as in hockey, Canada will win against the United States in this trade war.
Mark Carney has broken his promise on this. He said that he would do dollar-for-dollar tariffs during the election while he was simultaneously lifting those tariffs. And he has made concession after concession to President Trump. He's been bending over backwards for the president and so far has gotten nothing in return. We think that the counter tariff should be narrowly targeted on the things that will have the most impact on the Americans and the least impact on Canadians. We do this by targeting things that we don't need, can make ourselves, or can buy elsewhere. That will allow us a minimal opportunity cost in seeking the products from other places while increasing the political pressure on the Americans to get a deal that will allow Canada to have unfettered access to the American market.
This wasn't just political theater. Carney immediately implemented a comprehensive strategy that turned Trump's tariff weapon against him. First, Canada announced retaliatory tariffs of its own, carefully calibrated to hit American exporters in politically sensitive districts. But more importantly, Carney began systematically diversifying Canada's trade relationships away from the United States. The economic impact on both countries tells a fascinating story. According to Yale University's Budget Lab, Trump's tariffs will cost U.S. households an average of $2,400 in 2025, with clothes and shoes seeing price increases of up to 40%. The tariffs have brought the overall U.S. effective tariff rate to 18.3%, the highest since 1934, while unemployment is projected to rise by 0.4 percentage points and payroll employment to drop by 578,000 jobs. Canada, meanwhile, is showing remarkable resilience. Despite initial fears of economic collapse, TD Bank economist Mark Carney admits it's been a bit of surprise to see the Canadian economy holding up against massive disruption from its largest trading partner. While export-heavy industries like manufacturing and transportation are bearing the brunt of the impact, services sectors are holding up relatively well. The Bank of Canada expects the economy to keep growing even with the tariffs, though on a permanently lower path. But here's the key difference. Canada is adapting and diversifying while the U.S. is becoming increasingly isolated and economically inefficient. Carney's masterstroke came in how he framed the conflict politically. When Trump began making increasingly bizarre statements about Canada becoming the 51st U.S. state, Carney turned it into a rallying cry for Canadian nationalism. America is not Canada, and Canada never ever will be part of America in any way, he declared. This message resonated so powerfully with Canadian voters that it completely transformed the country's political landscape. The Liberal Party, which had been trailing badly in polls under Trudeau, surged to victory in the April 2025 election. Carney not only won his first seat in Parliament, but defeated Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, who had been leading polls for over a year. It was a stunning reversal that demonstrated how Trump's bullying tactics had backfired spectacularly. The global implications of this trade war extend far beyond North America. Countries around the world are watching as the U.S. systematically destroys its most important trade relationships. The European Union, which initially faced 50% tariffs that were later reduced to 15% through negotiations, is quietly building stronger ties with Canada and other non-U.S. partners. China's economy, ironically, is being hit less hard than America's closest allies. While U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods reach 145%, China's economy is projected to shrink by only 0.2%, about half the impact on the United States itself. This reveals the fundamental flaw in Trump's strategy. He's hurting America's friends more than its competitors. The legal challenges to Trump's tariffs are mounting. The president imposed many of them using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, a 1977 statute that doesn't actually mention tariffs. A trade court ruled in May that Trump overstepped his authority, though the case is under appeal. Business groups, advocacy organizations, and states have all challenged Trump's authority, with experts predicting the question will ultimately reach the Supreme Court. But perhaps the most damaging aspect of Trump's trade war is how it's reshaping global alliances. When Carney won the Canadian election, international leaders rushed to congratulate him. European Union President Ursula von der Leyen praised Canada's commitment to democratic values, multilateralism, and free and fair trade. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese spoke of enduring friendship and shared interests. Even China, after years of rocky relations with Canada, expressed readiness to grow relations on the basis of mutual respect, equality, and mutual benefit. The message was clear. While America isolates itself behind tariff walls, the rest of the world is moving on without it. The economic data continues to paint a grim picture for Trump's strategy. The Peterson Institute for International Economics found that the tariffs significantly reduce U.S. and global economic growth while increasing inflation. The effects are particularly severe for American agriculture and durable manufacturing sectors, which face reduced output, employment losses, and higher prices. Meanwhile, Canada is proving that there's life after economic dependence on the United States. While the transition is painful, Canadian businesses are finding new markets, new suppliers, and new opportunities. The country's natural resources, advanced manufacturing capabilities, and able political system make it an attractive partner for countries looking to reduce their own dependence on an increasingly unpredictable America. Carney's approach represents a fundamental shift in how middle powers respond to economic bullying from superpowers. Instead of capitulating or engaging in feudal retaliation, Canada is playing a longer game, building alternative relationships, diversifying its economy, and demonstrating that prosperity doesn't require submission to American demands. The irony is that Trump's tariffs were supposed to bring manufacturing jobs back to America and reduce the trade deficit. Instead, importers rushed to bring in goods before the tariffs took effect, causing the trade imbalance for the first half of 2025 to be 38% higher than in 2024. Factory jobs are disappearing, not returning, and American consumers are facing their highest tariff burden since the Great Depression. As we look toward the future, the question isn't whether Trump's tariff strategy will succeed. It's already failing by every meaningful economic measure. The question is how much damage it will do to American prosperity and global influence before it's abandoned. Carney's Canada offers a glimpse of what's possible when countries refuse to be intimidated by economic threats. By standing firm on principles, diversifying relationships, and playing to their strengths, smaller nations can not only survive trade wars but emerge stronger and more independent. Trump promised to make America great again through tariffs and trade wars. Instead, he's making America alone again. Isolated from its closest allies, economically inefficient, and increasingly irrelevant to a world that's learning to prosper without American leadership. Mark Carney and Canada have shown that sometimes the best way to deal with a bully is simply to walk away and build something better.